I heard her voice through the wall before I even knew what I was listening to. It was a Wednesday evening in March. I was in my back office, pretending to read. The house was quiet the way it always was now, the kind of quiet that settles in after you lose someone and never fully lifts. Through the drywall I could hear Renee on the phone, her voice low and careful, the tone she used when she thought no one was paying attention. "He's cooperative," she said. "He doesn't suspect anything." I set the book down, sat there for a moment. Then I reached into the bottom drawer of my desk, found the old watch, and strapped it to my wrist. "My name is Earl Dunbar. I'm 64 years old. I spent 32 years as a private investigator in Philadelphia. I've sat in cars for 14 hours watching people who thought they were invisible. I've read faces across interrogation tables and known when someone was lying before they finished the sentence. I thought I was pretty good at reading people. Turns out I missed the one person I never thought to watch. Let me back up. My wife Linda passed 3 years ago, breast cancer. 14 months from the day they found it to the day I sat alone in the hospital parking lot and didn't know how to drive home. After she was gone, the house felt wrong. 4 bedrooms, 2 floors, her garden tools still hanging in the garage because I couldn't figure out where else they should go. Every room held a version of her I wasn't ready to let go of. My daughter Diane lives across town with her husband and kids. She called every day for the first year. My son Neil and his wife Renee were about 40 minutes out. Neil called less, but when he did, he always asked the same thing. "How are you sleeping? Are you eating? You doing okay out there alone, Dad?" Linda used to say Neil had her eyes, but my stubbornness, I used to think that was a compliment. Last February, Neil and Renee came over for pot roast and brought a proposal with them. Renee laid it out over dinner, calm and reasonable, the way she did everything. Their lease was ending. The house was too big for one person. They could help with the bills, the upkeep, the day-to-day stuff that piled up. And honestly, she said it would give Neil some peace of mind knowing his father wasn't rattling around alone. Neil nodded the whole time she talked. He had the same nod he'd had at 9 years old when he was agreeing with something he hadn't fully heard yet. I said yes, he was my son. The house was too quiet. I wanted to believe he was there because he missed me. That was my first mistake. Renee moved through the house like she'd already planned where everything would go. Within 2 weeks, she was managing my bills. I'd had minor knee surgery the month before, nothing serious, but she used it as the opening. "Let me take this off your plate while you're still recovering, Dad." It seemed reasonable. I'd known Renee for 4 years by then. She was organized, financially sharp, and she made Neil happy. I handed over the passwords to 2 accounts and thought nothing of it. The calls from Carl Finney slowed down after that. Carl and I worked cases together for over 20 years. He's 66 now, semi-retired, does legal consulting. He called one Tuesday evening and Renee answered my phone, told him I was resting. I was sitting 10 feet away with a cup of coffee. When I asked her about it later, she said Carl always called at bad times and I needed to manage my stress. I let it go. Diane mentioned something similar a few weeks after. She'd called twice and gotten Renee both times. I told her I'd been tired. I believed it when I said it. Looking back, the signs were there. I just wasn't looking for them inside my own house. The power of attorney came on a Sunday morning in April. Temporary, Renee said. Just a precaution while my knee was still giving me trouble. Standard paperwork, she said. The kind people their age were setting up for parents all the time. Neil brought it to me at the kitchen table with a pen already uncapped. He was 7 years old again, handing me something he didn't fully understand. Trusting that the adults around him had figured it out. I signed it. I'm not proud of that. But I did. 3 weeks later, I found the USB drive. It was wedged behind the false bottom of my own desk drawer, the one I'd built into the desk myself back in 1998 because old habits die hard. I almost didn't find it. I was looking for a paper clip. I plugged it in 3 folders. The first held scans of every significant document I owned. The deed to the house, my will, 18 months of bank statements, my life insurance policy, $420,000, taken out the year after Linda's diagnosis. After she passed, I'd never updated the beneficiary. It still listed her name. It was just sitting there, unclaimed, waiting. The second folder was financial projections, spreadsheets with my home equity, my investment accounts, my estimated monthly expenses. Someone had done a very careful job of calculating what I was worth. The third folder had one document in it, a draft letter addressed to a Dr. Philip Steed. It requested a psychiatric evaluation of Earl Dunbar, age 64, citing confusion, memory lapses, and difficulty managing daily tasks. It was signed, in type by Renee Dunbar, on behalf of the family. I sat there for a long time. Outside, I could hear Neil in the kitchen, the sound of the refrigerator opening and closing. Normal Tuesday sounds. I thought about Linda, about the last good year before the diagnosis, about the way she'd grab my hand during movies even when she'd already seen them. I thought about what she would have said if she'd seen this. Then I put the USB back exactly where I'd found it, went to the kitchen, and asked Neil if he wanted coffee. Because the first thing you learn in this business is that the moment your subject knows you know, you've already lost. That night, I looked up Dr. Philip Steed. It took me about 20 minutes to find what I needed. His license had been suspended 4 years ago for falsifying patient evaluations in a custody dispute. Reinstated after 8 months. The kind of doctor you hire when you need a specific answer, not an honest one. The kind who knows exactly what a signature is worth. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark for a while. Renee was smart. I had to give her that. She hadn't moved fast. She'd spent months building the picture before making a single aggressive move. The isolation, the power of attorney, the cameras she'd suggested installing throughout the house for my safety, all of it patient and methodical. She'd been doing what good investigators do, laying groundwork before the ask. The difference was I'd spent 32 years on the other side of that process. I went to the dresser and found the old watch at the back of the top drawer, under a stack of Linda's letters I hadn't moved since she passed. Silver case, plain leather band, worn smooth at the edges. I'd had a small voice-activated recorder built into it back in 2009 for a corporate espionage case. Most people never look twice at it. It was just an old man's watch. I snapped it onto my wrist and left it there. The next morning I called Carl from the driveway, standing next to my car so the cameras on the front porch couldn't pick up my face. He answered on the first ring. "Earl, they screening your calls now. I need to talk," I said. Not over the phone. We met at a diner on Germantown Avenue 2 days later. Carl showed up in his old gray jacket, ordered black coffee, and listened without saying a word until I was done. When I finished, he leaned back and looked at the window for a moment. "So she wants the house and the insurance policy," he said. "Neil's the name on the paperwork, but she's running the operation. That's how I read it. You confront them yet?" "No," he nodded like that was the right answer. "What do you need from me?" "A psychiatrist who can evaluate me before Steed gets anywhere near me, independent. No connection to anyone in this situation. And your best judgment on how to run the rest." Carl knew a Dr. Howard Brewer. Board-certified, well-regarded in elder care circles, had testified in guardianship cases across the state. No overlap with Renee's network. We scheduled the evaluation for the following Thursday. I drove myself. Didn't mention it to anyone at home. Dr. Brewer's office was nothing like I expected. No clinical white walls or fluorescent lights. It felt like someone's study, bookshelves floor to ceiling, a pair of leather chairs angled toward each other, afternoon light coming in through tall windows. He shook my hand, offered coffee, and then spent 2 hours taking me through memory exercises, reasoning tasks, questions about my daily habits and decision-making. He was thorough, and he paid attention. When we finished, he printed his report at the desk in the corner, signed it, had it notarized on the spot. "Mr. Dunbar," he said, handing it to me, "your cognitive function is in the superior range for your age group. Your memory is sharp. Your reasoning is clear. If someone is planning to argue otherwise, they are going to have a difficult time in front of any judge I've ever met." I folded the report and put it in my jacket. In the meantime, the watch was working. 3 days after I'd found the USB, I was in my back office with the door cracked open when I heard voices in the kitchen. Renee and a man I didn't recognize. I stayed still through the recorder I caught enough. The stranger was Dr. Steed. Renee had invited him to the house while she thought I was resting. Her voice was the same calm, organized tone she used for everything. "Once we have the evaluation on file, we petition for guardianship. Neil gets appointed. Then we update the beneficiary on the life insurance and begin the process on the house equity." Steed asked how soon she could get me in front of him. 2 weeks, she said. "He's cooperative. He doesn't suspect anything." I wrote down the time and date in a notebook I kept locked in the false bottom of my desk. Carl handled the next piece. He had a contact, a man who'd done undercover work for years, who agreed to approach Renee as a real estate investor looking for off-market opportunities. Someone had told him, the contact said, that Renee had sharp instincts for identifying properties with complicated ownership situations. Would she be interested in a conversation? Renee said yes before the week was out. They met twice. By the second meeting, she had walked him through the entire plan. The guardianship petition, the life insurance policy, the home equity timeline. She mentioned Dr. Steed by name. She explained his role without being asked. Carl's contact was wearing a recorder both times. I also opened a savings account that week, $50,000 in it. One evening at dinner, I mentioned it to Neil casual, the way you'd mentioned the weather. Said I was thinking about moving some money around and hadn't decided where yet. Then I watched. Renee tried to access the account 9 days later. The bank flagged the attempt and called me directly, the way I'd arranged with the branch manager when I opened it. I added that to the notebook. By the end of the third week, I had the USB, the watch recordings, the undercover transcripts, the bank flag, and Dr. Brewer's signed evaluation. Beverly Marsh had been working with all of it for 10 days already, building the filing. Beverly is 54, elder rights law, Center City. She has the kind of face that doesn't change expression when you tell her something bad, because she's already heard worse and figured out how to handle it. I'd called her the morning after I found the USB. She told me to gather everything and keep my mouth shut until she said otherwise. I was good at that part. The locks on every door in the house were changed on a Friday morning while Neil and Renee were both out. The locksmith, a quiet guy named Pete, worked fast. When he was done, he asked if I was handling a tenant situation. I told him something like that. He said the smart ones always changed the locks before they said a word. That evening, I sat in my office with the door closed and laid everything out on the desk. The notebook, the USB, a printed copy of the watch transcripts Carl had pulled for me, Beverly's preliminary filing, Dr. Brewer's report. I looked at the photo of Linda on the corner of the desk. The one from our trip to Cape May, the summer before she got sick, her laughing at something off camera, squinting into the sun. She would have seen this coming before I did. She always read people faster than me. I was the one who watched and waited. She was the one who just knew. I picked up the watch and set it on top of the stack of documents. Tomorrow, I was going to call Neil into the living room and put the USB drive on the coffee table between us. Tonight, I just sat with the quiet and let myself feel the weight of it. I waited until Saturday morning. Neil was at the kitchen table with his coffee. Renee had gone out to run errands. I had maybe 40 minutes. I came in, sat down across from him, and set the USB drive on the table between us. He looked at it. Then he looked at me. His face didn't change right away. That was the part that stayed with me afterward. He just looked at it, and for a second he was 10 years old again, sitting at this same table, caught at something and trying to decide how bad it was. "Where did you find that?" he said. Not a question, more like a man calculating how much ground he'd already lost. "In my desk," I said, "behind the false bottom I built in 1998. The one you used to hide your baseball cards in when you were 12. He didn't say anything. I opened the laptop I'd brought with me, plugged in the drive, and pulled up the third folder. The draft letter to Dr. Steed. I turned the screen to face him and let him read it. He read it twice. His jaw moved like he was trying to find words that weren't there. "Earl," he started. "Don't," I said. "Not yet." I set my phone on the table and pressed play. Renee's voice came through the speaker, clear and steady. Recorded in this same house 3 weeks ago. "Once we have the evaluation on file, we petition for guardianship. Neil gets appointed. Then we update the beneficiary on the life insurance and begin the process on the house equity." Neil's coffee cup was still in his hand. He put it down slowly, like he was afraid of making noise. "I need you to understand something," I said. "I'm not angry. I'm past angry. What I am is done. I've already filed with Beverly Marsh. The power of attorney has been revoked. Every lock in this house was changed last Friday. Your names have been removed from every account. And if Renee files that guardianship petition, she's going to walk into a courtroom where I have that recording, a signed psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Howard Brewer, and a transcript from 2 meetings where she explained this entire plan to someone she thought was a real estate investor." He looked at me for a long time. I watched something move through his face. Not guilt, exactly. More like a man watching a building come down and realizing he'd been standing inside it. "I didn't know about the insurance," he said finally. "I knew about the guardianship. She said it was just paperwork, that it was the responsible thing to do, that you were getting older and someone needed to be ready to step in. You signed the power of attorney. She said it was standard. She said a lot of things, Neil. He didn't argue with that." I closed the laptop and stood up. "You have 30 days, Pennsylvania law. After that, Beverly handles whatever comes next." He was still sitting at the table when I walked out. Renee came home about an hour later. I was in my office, and I heard them go into the bedroom and close the door. Their voices stayed low, but I could hear the shape of the argument through the wall. Renee's tone stayed controlled a lot longer than his did. That told me everything I needed to know about how that marriage worked. They came downstairs together that evening. Renee sat across from me in the living room with her hands folded in her lap and told me there had been a misunderstanding, that the letter to Dr. Steed had been exploratory, that she'd only wanted to make sure proper plans were in place for my future care. Her voice was the same careful tone she used for everything, and if I hadn't already had 3 weeks of evidence sitting in Beverly's office, I might have spent another 10 minutes talking myself into believing her. I let her finish. Then I told her that Beverly would be in touch. She looked at me for a moment with an expression I hadn't seen on her face before, not anger, something closer to recalculation. She'd built this whole thing on the assumption that I was a cooperative old man who wouldn't fight back, and she was only now updating that assumption. "You can't prove intent," she said quietly. I picked up the old watch from the arm of my chair and held it up. Voice activated, I said, "I've been wearing it for 3 weeks. Beverly has the transcripts." The recalculation happened again, faster this time. Then she stood up, said something to Neil I didn't catch, and went upstairs. Neil sat there for a minute. He looked the way he'd looked at 16 when he'd wrecked my car and had to come tell me. That combination of shame and exhaustion, like the lying had cost him more than the truth ever would have. "I'm sorry, Dad," he said. "I know," I said, "and I did. That was the part I hadn't expected." I believed him. I just didn't know yet what to do with that. The next 2 weeks ran on Beverly's schedule. She filed the civil complaint on a Monday: elder financial exploitation, conspiracy to commit fraud, abuse of power of attorney. The motion to quash any guardianship petition was filed the same day, attached to Dr. Brewer's evaluation and a full index of the evidence. She moved fast, and she didn't leave gaps. The court date was set for a Thursday morning, 6 weeks out. Renee hired a private attorney. Neil couldn't afford one separately and ended up sharing her counsel, which Beverly told me later was exactly the kind of thing that happens when one person in a scheme is running the other. They don't even split up when it falls apart. I spent those 6 weeks the way I'd spent the best years of my career. Methodical, patient. I checked in with Beverly twice a week. I kept the watch charged. I slept better than I had since Linda died, which surprised me. Maybe it was having something to do. Maybe it was just the difference between being the target and being the one who'd set the trap. Diane drove over the week before the hearing. We sat on the back porch with coffee, and she didn't say much. She'd never trusted Renee, and she'd been careful not to say it too loudly. The way you are when you're not sure if saying the thing will cost you something you can't afford to lose. "You okay?" she said. "Getting there," I said. She put her hand over mine on the armrest and didn't say anything else. That was enough. The courtroom smelled like old wood and recycled air. Beverly sat next to me at the plaintiff's table, a stack of folders arranged in front of her with the kind of precision that told you she'd done this 100 times and never once walked in unprepared. Across the aisle, Renee and Neil sat with their shared attorney, a man who looked like he'd taken the case on short notice and was already regretting it. Judge Patricia Hollis presided. She was in her late 60s, silver-haired, with reading glasses she kept taking on and off as she worked through the file. The kind of judge who has no patience for anything that wastes her morning. Renee's attorney opened with the standard framing. Concerned family, aging parent. Reasonable precautions. He cited 2 neighbors who'd mentioned seeing me confused on the street. A friend of Neil's who said I'd repeated myself at dinner once. Judge Hollis listened without expression. Then Beverly stood up. She started with Dr. Brewer's evaluation. Read the key line into the record directly. Superior cognitive function for his age group, memory sharp, reasoning clear. Then she submitted the full report as Exhibit A. She moved to the power of attorney next, walked the judge through the timeline, the knee surgery, the suggestion that came within 2 weeks of move-in, the document Neil had brought to the kitchen table on a Sunday morning with the pen already uncapped. Then she played the recording. The courtroom went quiet in a specific way when Renee's voice came through the speaker. Not the quiet of people being polite, the quiet of people holding still because they don't want to miss anything. Once we have the evaluation on file, we petition for guardianship. Neil gets appointed. Then we update the beneficiary on the life insurance and begin the process on the house equity. Judge Hollis took her glasses off and looked at Renee. Beverly kept going. She submitted the transcript from Carl's contact. 2 meetings, full detail. Renee explaining the plan to someone she believed was a potential partner. She submitted the bank records showing the attempt to access the $50,000 account 9 days after I'd mentioned it at dinner. She submitted the USB drive contents as a complete exhibit. Renee's attorney objected 3 times. Judge Hollis overruled him twice and told him to sit down once. When Beverly finished, the judge was quiet for a moment. She looked at the folder in front of her, then at Renee, then at Neil. "Mr. Dunbar," she said, looking at Neil. "Did you read the power of attorney document before you signed it?" Neil hesitated. "My wife explained it to me." The judge held his gaze for a moment, then looked back at her folder. She denied the guardianship petition from the bench, ordered the power of attorney permanently revoked, entered civil judgment against Renee for elder financial exploitation and abuse of fiduciary trust. The number Beverly had argued for came through in full. Then she referred the criminal matter to the district attorney's office. Renee was charged 3 weeks later. Elder financial abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud. Her attorney negotiated, but Beverly had left very little room. The DA pushed hard. She took a plea to avoid trial. 8 years. I was in Beverly's office when she called with the final number. I sat there for a minute after she said it. 8 years was real time. It wasn't abstract. It was what happened when someone built a careful plan to take everything from a man they decided was too old and too trusting to fight back. I thanked Beverly and drove home. Neil was not charged. There wasn't enough to prove he'd understood the full scope of what Renee had been building. He'd signed what she put in front of him and asked the questions she let him ask. The law has a word for that, and it isn't innocent, but it isn't criminal either. He lost the inheritance. The new will Beverly had filed stood. Everything went to Diane, with provisions for Carl and 2 organizations Linda had donated to every year until she couldn't anymore. I sold the house in October. A young couple bought it, 2 kids, a dog that ran straight to the backyard and didn't come back for 10 minutes. The husband shook my hand at closing and said they'd take good care of it. I told him the garden in the back needed more water than you'd think. Linda had figured that out the hard way. I found a 2-bedroom apartment closer to Diane. The 2nd bedroom became my office. I brought the desk, the files, the old case photos I'd kept in boxes for years. Carl came by the first weekend and we ordered food and watched a game and didn't talk about any of it, which was exactly what I needed. Diane brought the kids over most Sundays. They'd sit in the office and ask about the old cases. I told them the ones appropriate for a 9-year-old. Those afternoons were good in a way I hadn't expected. Simple, real. 6 months after the hearing, my phone rang. Neil, I let it ring twice, then I picked up. He talked for about 4 minutes, said he was sorry, said he hadn't understood how far it had gone until it was already done. Said he'd been telling himself for months that Renee had good intentions and he'd stopped asking the questions he should have asked. Said he understood if I never wanted to hear from him again. I listened to all of it. Then I said, call me again in a year. I hung up, set the phone on the desk, and sat there for a moment. Outside the window, the city was doing what it always did, moving forward, not waiting on anyone. I picked up the old watch, wound it, set it on the corner of the desk next to the photo of Linda at Cape May, squinting into the sun, laughing at something no one else could see. Some things you fix. Some things you carry forward. Either way, you keep moving. That's the only way any of this works. If you're watching this and something in this story felt familiar, pay attention to that feeling. Not every threat to what you've built comes from a stranger. Some of it walks in through your front door wearing the face of someone you love and the language of concern. You're not too old to recognize it. You're not too tired to fight back. The men who built something from nothing, who showed up for decades, who kept their word when it was hard, those men do not go quietly. If someone in your life is making decisions that should be yours, if your calls are being filtered, if your paperwork is being handled by someone who volunteered a little too quickly, trust what you know. You have earned that instinct. Use it. Drop a comment below and tell me what you thought of Earl's story. I read every one.